So the story that we chose is The Necklace. It's a short story by Guy du Massupin. It is published in February 17th, 1884 in a French newspaper.
So basically the story is kind of like, there's this girl named Mathilde. It's spelled like math lead. I'm so serious. And she's like upper working class. She's in that general middle class. Like, she has a servant. They're able to save up money and go on shooting vacations, her and her husband. But she feels as if she is stricken with poverty because she does not have the newest gowns. Her tables are not the way they should be. Her chairs are not nice. Her curtain is old. Like, her entire house isn't up to her standard. Her life isn't up to her standard. And she thinks she is, or more so the narrator thinks she's stricken with a curse of being like this. Not an actual curse, because she's just better. She's so beautiful. She should be higher class like her friend, Madame Fritier, who lends her a necklace because she is invited to this like social event, and she buys a gown.
I feel like one thing important to note right there is that her husband had worked very hard to get this invitation. He gave this to her as like a present with the idea that it would make her so happy, because they never go to events like these. Like, the invitation was like a gift.
It was a gift too, and I forgot to notice this, but she's upset that he gave it to her because she doesn't have a nice gown, or she doesn't have the jewelry.
Baffling.
I know.
Because this man had money saved up for a gun, and in the end he gave it to her so she could get a brand new, nice, beautiful, fancy dress for this invitation that, like I said, she was upset to receive.
And she had a going out gown, because she even says, oh, why don't you use your gown for the theater? And she's like, no, it's too shabby.
And this invitation is just so good. She cannot be seen in something that, it just isn't good enough. She doesn't have a single dress in her wardrobe that is just good enough for this.
Yeah, and so now she needs jewelry too, because she gets a nice gown, but jewelry's not enough. So she borrows it from her rich friend, and she loses it. I think that's it's just wow.
Also, I feel like I give her a little bit of room in this one. She was dressed up really nice. She had really nice jewelry at one of the fanciest parties she's ever been. And it is mentioned in the story that she is a beautiful woman. And people were fawning over her. People thought she looked so elegant, that she just looked so good, and she was so nice. She just had an absolute blast at this party. And then quickly, the horror of losing the necklace set in. Okay, I could see maybe how she, lost track of things a little bit.
I could never be so inconsiderate with something that I thought was real diamond. I don't even think I'd take it. But basically, she loses it, and she has to take out loans and loans to buy, a 10,000 ruble necklace made out of real diamond. And she has to give away her servant. She has to save money. They have to take notes out.
They have to move into a new house.
An attic. It's not a house. It's literally an attic. We Googled it and searched it up. It's this fancy word for attic. And basically, she finally gives it back. And a while later, when her debt is fully paid off, she talks to her friend. And her friend...
10 years later. It took 10 years to pay this debt.
She talks to her friend, right? And she says, oh, Mathilde, my poor Mathilde, it was made out of paste. It was 500 rubles.
So the story talks heavily about materialism. It uses a lot of imagery. I feel imagery is used mostly in the beginning when she's describing her house. We just have to understand, the depth to which Mathilde hates her life. She notices things that normally wouldn't have been noticed at all. She's just so unhappy with her state that she is, overly critical about her home. She's like, oh, my cloth, it's 3 days old. No, I don't deserve this.
Especially, and I think that brings, that connection to the real world it has. If you go onto social media and you see, people are taking out credit card debt, they're, they're renting things they can't afford, all to show off a certain way. And even between, people with yours, I'm seeing more, symbols of, status, I guess, that people have seen. And, for example, I've seen so many people in these Lululemon sets that are, $200 maybe, and they look nice, but nobody, it's wearing athletic wear outside in a non-athletic space, and I think it's kind of because it's so expensive.
They want to get more use out of it. They also just want to show it off to more people. Another thing that we were talking about was people renting spaces, renting cars, renting like clothes, like designer clothes, for example, and like sharing it with other people just so you can get like one really good photo and everyone thinking you in specific are like super rich.
Yeah, and it kind of ties back to this theme that like materialism isn't good. You should enjoy what you have, because Mathilde she has to suffer for 10 years. She grows gray hairs and
Hands get wrinkled.
yeah, she has to suffer for 10 years because she wanted the best of the best, and she couldn't be content with what she had because she had nice things. Especially like she had an evening gown. She had a servant. She had furniture. She lived in a house
That she owned.
yeah, they rented out the attic. It was just kind of like, it just ties back to that theme. She's punished for her materialism, that she needs to have the newest, nicest thing.
And that could go hand in hand along with consumerism as well. Like always wanting to like spend to like feel better. Like she doesn't actually want these items. She wants like the wealth associated with these items.
And she's very like ungrateful for what she has. She can't see any beauty of what she has. She doesn't thank her husband for giving out so much money.
And her husband, who also works alongside her to get rid of this debt.
Yeah,
He's a real one.
There's no scene of her saying I'm sorry. There's no scene of her saying we can do this together. Like he says it. He makes it work. He's like, it'll be okay, Mathilde. Like
After they lose the necklace, he's the one who like goes step by step, literally retraces their steps all the way to the party to find the necklace, which he doesn't find. Another thing I also feel is maybe the topic of class, especially like from the beginning to the end. For example, in the beginning, Mathilde, she's like a very graceful, beautiful lady, and at the end, when she's like worked her whole life, she's described as like loud, crass, closer to ugly. Like when her friend sees her, she's like, oh my god, what happened to you?
I know, and it's kind of like it's definitely written of its time. I think, you know, when you read a book and you're like, oh, I can tell this wasn't written now, like, because I feel like because I don't think the author intended to bring up class, and not one bit. Like, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like it wasn't intended to bring up class, but it just it seeps throughout the story. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious that class is seen a certain way, and it's a little bit classist in the writing.
Definitely. And we can also see that with Madame Foster, because she has just built up like such like her class and just like her elegance, like the image that she has built up has Mathilde fully believing that this woman would have a real, how much did you say, 10,000 ruby like necklace. Like she fully had just built up that image, like you could believe like, oh yeah, and she definitely has enough money for that, when that clearly wasn't the truth.
I know, it's just like I feel like those are the big like 3 parts of the short story that I keep thinking about is class, consumerism, and imagery. I feel like that literally.
I feel like there's also diction, like the way, like the words that are used throughout the story, like they're very mindful.
I would agree. The word choices are like, they're framed a certain way. Like, you know, it's describing very simple things or just the average thing, and they make them sound bad.
Yeah, for example, like, yeah, sure, she didn't like her house, but she could have used other words that weren't so negative, for example. Or, like, when she was having so much fun at the ball, like, they used very specific words to just let her know that this was such a special moment for Madame. What did we say? Madame Luziel, that's her last name.
Yeah, and they describe it more, too. Like, you can tell, like, imagery really shows her mindset, because not only is the diction different, but they describe it in full detail. They describe her house down to the curtain, to the tablecloth. They describe everything.
To the table.
They describe the chairs, too.
Her dishes?
Yeah. And they describe her fun moment of everything she did, her beautiful gown, how well she looked.
They also describe when, like, she's washing her own dishes because she has no servants, when she's, like, cleaning her house, like, head to toe.
Yeah, it's just a lot altogether. Like, I think this all works together to forward back to our theme that maybe this materialism isn't good.